Hi guys. Okay, another random thought, okay? Because I've been thinking a lot today because I've been working with a lot of people and it's getting my thoughts going because I keep with people that I'm coaching and doing all of this stuff with, I'm starting to see all of these patterns and all these things lining up. So, I'm just going to tell you guys what I'm getting, okay? Hi, welcome in. So, this is how to get on your life purpose. But I'm going to explain this in a crazy different way. So, just prepare yourselves because this will be like all over the place. Okay. Hi, Molly. So, I was thinking about how I don't think I've talked much about it, but I follow Graham Hancock. If you guys have watched his stuff, he's awesome. Okay. And he talks about how and we already know this about the past, but there have been higher consciousness beings that have been able to create magnificent things, right? The quantum physics and all this stuff. So let me dive into this, okay? You guys prepare yourself because I am just gonna ramble like crazy. So just hold on to our knickers because this is gonna get kind of intense. So I was thinking about how there have been higher consciousness beings in the past that have been able to accomplish like all this stuff, like building pyramids and things like, oh, hunter gatherers, right? Wouldn't have been able to do. Like you'd have to have a higher consciousness to be able to do and build some of the incredible things that have been done in the past, okay? Right? So, what I was thinking about is so you guys know how I talk about the quantum physics, right? There's entanglement, and entanglement is when two quantum entities come together, and once they come into relationship with one another, they affect each other's behavior, and they will, like, no matter the distance between the two, right? It'll cause them to react. Okay, they affect each other's behavior. And we know that with the double slit experiment and with what's the other one? Superposition, your observation can affect something to act like a particle or a wave. So I talk about that, all the foundation of quantum physics, and then there's quantum tunneling where your little quantum entities, they can force themselves through barriers, kind of like in X-Men where Katie can walk through walls. That's what goes on down at that quantum level, okay? So now that you understand that foundation, let me dive into this way, okay? When you are born, the very first thing that develops inside of you in the fetus is your brain and your intestines, the gut, okay? So right there, when you are first created, you have that entanglement between your own brain and your gut. They are linked. They affect each other's behavior. They've come into relationship with one another because they were created together at the same exact time. So if you guys have researched how much like your gut health is so important, it's because at that level, like that is entangled with your brain. That's why you have brain chemicals in your gut. That's where your emotions lie, and if that gets damaged, it can cause you to be emotional. It can cause like those chemical reactions where everything's kind of out of whack. But if you start breaking down the intestines internal lining, and if you block up the intestines, right, with actual, sorry to be gross, I love you guys, but you know, when you back it up with SHIT, then you're gonna block energy in the body. And that's how you cause weight gain. That's how all of a sudden you can get inflamed or, you know, you're gaining weight everywhere. We look at humans, we're so weird. We look at other humans and we're like, oh, they're really thin, and we're like, they look great. At the quantum level, their intestines are healthy. Like they have a clear system. So think about this. if you start blocking up the intestines and blocking that energy connection and that communication from the intestines to the brain, that's how you can shut off intuition. Because if all the chemicals are out of whack in your gut, then you won't be able to hear any type of intuition that you're getting on where you need to go, like how to get on your life purpose, how to create solutions when you have problems. So that's why we are such ridiculous humans, because we're like, oh, we think that food isn't linked to everything else in the body. All of it is connected. All of it. So if something's going on in your brain, right? Like say that you have something going on in the brain that's saying, it's okay, let me explain it in this way, okay? Your conscious mind is almost kind of like this little rat wheel that keeps going day in and day out. It's like thinking the same exact thoughts over and over again. And I did in one of my readings how your brain can think at least 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. 70, that means that you have access, because a thought is just like a vibration from your reality that you're entangling with. That's what law of attraction is. So if you're just thinking stressful thoughts because that's what's in the cells of your body, then you're going to entangle with other stressful situations or relationships. Or even food that's going to cause you stress, work environments that's going to cause you stress. So if you are entangling already, like if your thoughts, if you're just thinking the same exact ones and you're not tapping into the other 60 to 70,000 that's giving you like solutions, it's tapping you into your intuition, then you're not going to hear where you need to go to get out of a situation that you're not satisfied with. So that's the whole key, is like you've got to learn to quiet that conscious mind so you can start seeing into your subconscious mind. This is the crazy thing I was thinking about. I was thinking a lot about free radicals, right? Because you guys know I talk about free radicals constantly on my channel. And I'm quite obsessed with the whole concept, because you know how I call them energy vampires or narcissistic molecules, because they're a molecule that's missing an electron. It's missing energy, which means that it's dark in that area. So when we talk about the evolution process, how an atom turns into a molecule turns into cells turn into tissues and organs, and that ultimately turns into a human, like you or I, right? So if you have a free radical that gets somewhere in that process where the molecules are being built, then that's how you create a shadow. That's how you start creating parts in your cell that are going to be the shadow part of you, because all the shadow it's a lack of light, it's a lack of energy somewhere in your chemical makeup. So that's what we're kind of like going around and trying to figure out, how we're entangling with different people and different realities, is we're seeing reflections of the part that we can't see in ourselves. So if you come across a person, right, and they trigger you or whatever, it's a sign of, it's a complete entanglement and mirroring of that shadow part in you. That's the entanglement. Makes sense? So again, going back to the free radicals, because those were man-made. Like, that's missing light, that's missing energy. And so if you as a human start purposefully creating energy that's going to go into humans, I hate to sound like a conspiracy theorist right now, but I just gotta say it. So if you create a molecule that's gonna put people, it's gonna throw off their intuitive connection between their brain and their gut, right? If you start gaining weight and things like that, and you build up too much energy in your body, and then you can't even listen to your body anymore, that means you can't listen to your intuition. It's going to throw off your conscious mind and go into the subconscious mind. So that, my friends, is how you control a society. Because if you freaking just invent one little thing that we can't see with our eyes, but you can create it as a chemist with your energy, with the entanglement, and you have the ability to do that. And then you put it in foods and put it in grocery stores and put it on the shelves for us to ingest. And then we put it into our bodies, and then it starts throwing off your internal system. Then you're going to break the entanglement and the connection of your intuition, and then you can completely set up people in a what is it called, a class system, right? You've got the elites, you've got people at the top on the pedestals, and then you've got people in poverty that don't see their true potential because they're just lacking energy. So you completely set up a system where they're completely dependent on the system for solutions rather than looking to themselves, all because of their shadow. So man creates the shadow in all of us, and it's done through food. I want to say ultimately, because think even back to the times where agriculture was first started, you know, like thinking about all the things, the chemistry in even food. Have you guys ever thought about that? Like one day recently, because yes, and I'm not gonna say that this diet is for everyone because I try not to push the vegan agenda on everyone, but after going vegan, like I would go into the grocery stores and I would look at like Cheetos or something, and I was like, that is literally, it's almost like eating styrofoam. Do you know what? It's not even real. We put that into our bodies. Like, that's creepy. That's really creepy. Like, it's quite scary, you know what I mean? I'm only saying that because my own health completely broke down. And not only that, like my mental health. So that's where I was even starting to look at how, I know I am all over the place. So I really apologize, guys, but I hope that you're following along. Because I was also thinking about, what was I thinking? Oh, back to like the connection between the brain and the intestines. Let me explain it in this way, okay? So if you guys have watched on my channel, there is this, like I have my foundations playlist. You can look at the videos there, but I talk all about this because I was looking at how, crap. What was I gonna say? I lost it. That's what happens when I jump too much all over the place. What was I saying? I was talking about the connection between the brain and the intestines. Yeah, the brain to the gut. Oh, this is what I was gonna say. Okay, there is this field of study that's been been talked about, and it's about bird migration. And you guys are gonna be like, what in the random? But this will all make sense. So in the 70s, there was this German couple that were doing experiments on the northern European robin, and they grabbed one of them, caught him in a cage, and they were trying to see how they would navigate when they were like moving on to warmer climates and things like that. And the birds, like, we know they use landscape or land markers or the sun or things like that to figure out where they need to go for warmer climates. But what they found by catching these birds, they would put them in this cage, and they had magnets around the outside of the cage. I'm going to get to the point in a second, so just bear with me. So they would move this cage around back and forth, north to south, all this stuff, and they found that the birds were actually following like the angle of inclination from the magnetic field. Like they were following the direction of the magnets outside of the cage. So that's where the couple was starting to figure out that birds, the way that they navigate is they actually can sense the angle of inclination of the magnetic field of the earth. So they're using that plus, and this is kind of the lead theory they have, but the bird has to be looking at the sun while they're flying, while they're in flight. And once they absorb green or blue light into the back of their retina in their eyes, like, right, there's a little molecule called cryptochrome in the back of the eyeball where it absorbs or it entangles with that green or blue light from the sun. And then when the two electrons, they entangle and they get excited, one of them bounces back to the brain to send the message combined with the angle of inclination of the magnetic field of the earth. So those two combinations will communicate with the bird's brain and tell the bird which direction they need to go in. And that's why I'm like, it is really strange that we feel ourselves to be superior to animals enough to eat them, because I actually think they're more intelligent than we are. Just because they don't communicate, it doesn't mean that they aren't. And that's what I was thinking, what's interesting about the bird. Like the bird can literally fly to a different place because it's that in tune with its body and what it needs to survive. Okay. It is so in touch with itself. So think about birds eat specific things, right? Insects, worms, things like that, maybe some grains, who knows? But they know their body enough and their system and their structure to be able to navigate to different places, to figure out which direction they need to go in. So that's ultimately what I'm trying to get to, is this is how you find your life purpose. Is that, why do I talk about the sun? Because you have to entangle with the sun. It's going to give you energy. You're going to absorb photons of light, and then you're going to raise your vibration. It's going to help you to heal the shadow. And then through that process, you also have to be making sure your system is clear, because if we've spent a lifetime absorbing like free radicals, which is sitting like, and you guys can research it yourself, but free radicals are in processed foods, they're in toxins in the air, they're in chemicals that are sprayed on our produce, they're in all of this stuff, yeah? So we put it into our bodies and you have to cleanse it, okay? So that's why I have not been a religious person in years. I've not since I was a teenager. I've been more along the lines of spiritual, right? But that's why, if you guys have seen why I did my crazy water fast for as long as I did, because I was like, man, isn't it interesting how Jesus Christ, like that guy was the dude, he was the man. Like he had figured it out. Like there is all this talk that he went on some type of like discovering journey, trying to find himself, and he went somewhere, I think India or something. I could be wrong on that, so don't quote me on it. But he went somewhere and he was like said to have been meditating and going through this process. And when he came back, all of a sudden he was teaching everyone, like he'd reached some level of enlightenment. But isn't it interesting how he did a 40-day water fast and a water cleanse? Because he had figured out that even back then, even back in those times, people hadn't figured out that the food they were putting in their body was probably affecting their intestines. Like maybe breaking down the barrier wall and then shutting people off from their connection from their brain to their intestines, which would cut off the intuition. And so because of that, that's why people even back then had a shadow, why they crucified Christ, so that why they were so afraid of him is because he had cleaned out his body, and the shadow is going to completely come in and like confront the light, right? That entanglement does not go well. Because if something or someone is at a very high vibration and they come in contact with someone who's like nothing, you know what I mean? Like, just because we didn't have psychologists back then that were diagnosing people with mental health conditions doesn't mean it didn't exist. Like, there were, I mean, the people that crucified Christ were probably very psychopathic. So, dude, I hate how I get off track. So, what was I saying before, too? About, oh, so Christ had figured out, like, to clear out the body, right? To clear out the intestines. And that's what created whatever Christ consciousness, because he had finally cleared out all the energy in his intestines from the fast, and then it caused his intuition to be linked again. So then he was back in tune with himself, and that put him in a higher vibration, because then once those two are connected back with each other, then you're going to start being able to see like which direction you need to go in, like where you need to go on your path, what purpose you have. So, yeah. Am I even making sense with all this? So that's why I was saying kind of too, like, I know it sounds very conspiracy theorist, definitely, but I was just thinking about how, like, even with what people know, I'm like, how do they not know what's happening? Like, with if I, an uneducated human, can figure this out, I'm like, all the top chemists must know what they're doing to us. So if people at the top are like allowing these things to happen, for this food to be on the shelves, that's gonna put us in the whole rat race of going to the hospital with health conditions, and then, like, you know, spending a lot of money when you don't have money. It's like a whole system that is almost too perfect to not be constructed on purpose. Do you know what I mean? Because it's so detailed and like perfect down to the exact class system, down to everything. I mean, it's really trippy to think about. Yeah, exactly, Nail. Storm. I love that. I always feel weird calling everyone by their YouTube names because, yeah, it doesn't make sense. Well, and I think, Molly, more than money driven, I think it's power driven. Because that's why I wonder if that's where, as a consciousness as a whole in our society, where things are really starting to shift. Because I think for a long time, the shadow or whatever has been more in control, or has been more dominating the system. And now the light is coming in. That's why the light workers were coming in, because if you've experienced a certain, like, a crazy amount of pain in your life, then you're going to be like, you have the ability to have that pendulum swing, right? You have the ability to get the light on the opposite side. It's physics. And so that's why I feel like a lot of people right now are becoming more spiritual, like waking up and things like that, is because more and more of us are experiencing pain. But it's almost like kind of going back to indigo children and things like that, is that they're a specific type of people. Like, you could even maybe consider them Arcturians. You know, they're a different breed that can almost handle more pain. Like, honestly, I would say, and I watch a few tarot readers, and I would say, yeah, Adelina Bond, she's one of them that's been able to push through like a warrior. I don't think she's human. With consciousness evolution journey, D, I think she's a different like type of energy or person. Like, this is so crazy that I'm saying this. But that's what I think, is that there's a specific group of people or whatever, certain kind of people that are coming into this lifetime, and they're able to push past maybe things that most humans wouldn't have been able to pull themselves out of. And because of that, they're their light is shining like so bright or whatever. They've been able to alchemize that much from having such a dark shadow that they're able to alchemize to the light. And they are leaders in this whole path. Like, they have been paving the way. And there's other people, of course, that have too, for sure. But that's why I think that a lot of us light workers are just coming to the forefront, is because we're trying to bring more balance to how things have been just way off. That the shadow is starting to run more and more. It's been dominant for way too long, you know? But yeah, exactly, Carmen. Definitely. Like, you can even tell just listening to both of them how much pain they've been through. You can tell. You can feel it within someone. And let me finish this. Interweb is such a fantastic collective tool for consciousness. I think we needed it to start getting here to collect the grid and light workers. Yeah, Molly, I totally agree. That's why I think social media, it is interesting, because you still got to be aware. It's a beautiful thing that connects all of us, but at the same time, it really sucks, because sometimes, like, it's going to show, like, people reach out to me and I can tell when they don't have healthy boundaries, because they will start just, like, I feel like they're trying to suck my energy. And that's where, like, that's why I appreciate social media as an empath, is that, like, you know, we all just need to learn boundaries, like, learn how to communicate ourselves and not put other people on pedestals, you know? Like, we are all equal and we are all the same, and we're all figuring out our shadow. And so people that, like, yeah, come in, and I just think everyone needs to learn how to use their voice, you know, that chakra. Let me see. Oh, thank you, Australopithecus. I don't know how to say that. Yeah, I think it's ADHD. It's pretty much every mental health condition, because if you look at, I did come across an article one time. I don't have it, and you crazies are always like, someone on there got after me the other day for not having references to things I say, and I'm like, go look it up. Like, Google is easily accessible for everyone, so just look it up. But I came across an article once that said that free radicals are the cause of 99 plus diseases that would be mental and physical diseases. So that's especially why, if you guys listen to my messages, I like to point out the shadow in both people. Because if you start painting one as a victim and one as a perpetrator, you've lost the consciousness. It's a tricky game to play always, because the second you start pinning people against each other, or you separate yourselves, that's when you know that you've come out of alignment with yourself. You probably had free radicals. Your shadow just came into play within your own being. How do I truly let go of someone's energy that's dragging me down? Joss? I don't know which one it is. So what you have to do, oh, it's such a combination of things. Like, first of all, I think Eckhart Tolle, like, he's great in a lot of ways, but at the same time, I don't think you can just completely, like, presence your way out of every situation and connection. Like, it's really hard to do if you're just like, how do you react when you're in the present moment? You know, because what's shadow, what's light? Like, that's the thing that's always confusing. Oh, thank you so much, Teresa. I really appreciate the $9.99. That was really nice. So, what was I gonna say too? Free radicals. Crap, I lost it. I don't remember what I was saying. Oh, right. When I talk about the shadow in my readings, that's why I always point out that, yeah, one might be like a victim, but it's a mindset, right? Like, that's what's so trippy, is that once you fall into the victim prey dynamic, you've separated yourself, right? That's what I was talking about with the shadow. What else was I saying? Oh, I was talking about free radicals, because the free radicals, I don't remember what I was saying. Crap. And yeah, Austral, I don't even know how to say that. Australopithecus. I love it. Let me look through these really quick, because maybe that will spark something in me, because I can't remember what I was saying. I don't remember. Oh, back to narcissistic relationships. So that's why it's actually kind of sad. I was thinking about those today, and like the whole twin flame thing. I was thinking about how, like, with narcissistic relationships, remember how yesterday I was talking about the energy give and take? So one person, the narcissist, is usually taking the energy and the empath is usually giving. But this also can be blurred, because I feel like both can give or take. That's why it turns in such like a crazy back and forth relationship, is because there's just like all these blurred lines, right? The blurred boundaries. And I was thinking about, like, if there's something about society dividing these connections, because I was thinking about, look at domestic violence and things like that. People that are technically soulmates, right? And they get abused in loving relationships, verbally, physically. And I was like, isn't that interesting? What if the, like, part of the control in this society and culture is turning everyone against each other? You know, like, everyone causing the separateness inside of ourselves. So then you also see a separateness between you and other people. And then that's when you're probably going to do damage to someone else, because once you're running off of fear, it's all about that self-preservation. And then that's when we attack each other. Like, that's when we go after each other or peg ourselves against one another. And that's why it's even more sad to me in love relationships, is how, like, actual people that have connected and been intimate turn against each other. That's crazy. If you really think about it as a whole, like, people that we love and are connected to, and then all of a sudden it turns into hate or darkness. I don't, like, that is crazy. And so that's why I'm like, again, it's back to the free radicals, because if you can cause everyone to just constantly be disconnected from one another, and everyone to just, like, see that separateness, that's how it bleeds into the society as a whole. That's why we have the class system and see the separateness. And it's really sad, because I think there have been people that have tried to bridge that gap, and it's almost like they get attacked, or, you know, like, yeah, I don't know. We're just weird. Humans are so weird. I don't understand us at all. Like, I'm always, when I'm out and about, I'm always just watching people, and I'm like, this is so weird. We are literally living in a crazy little matrix where it's like, what? Like, everyone's just walking around, and I think I'm just rambling at this moment, but I'm going to tell you guys a little story, okay? So, when I started out traveling, I was crazy. I was like, for dragging my suitcases around, like, through cities, and I know I looked like a crazy person, but I didn't really care. And one day I was walking down the sidewalk in downtown, like, Salt Lake City, and there was like a 70-year-old woman that was, like, crumpled in this tiny little ball on the corner of the sidewalk. And I walked up to her, and I'll never forget her for the rest of my life. Her name was Patty. And I walked up to her, and she was like, one of her eyeballs was completely white. And I went and walked up to her, and I was like asking her if she wanted any food, because I had some stuff on me. And she was like, I can't eat anything, because her health was completely deteriorated. But she had a couple of boxes of apple juice, you know. And she offered me one of them, which was so sweet, but it tripped me out so bad, because Here I was looking at this 70, 80-year-old woman that couldn't even move, just sitting on the sidewalk, and coming down the sidewalk was these girls in like heels, and I'm a hypocrite, okay, so I don't want to say anything, but just like they were dressed to the nines, like heels, and they were just like caught up in their conversation. And I don't want to shame people, but it really tripped me out looking at those two radical realities right in front of me. A woman and then like these girls that were completely oblivious to this reality that was sitting there in front of us. It tripped me out pretty bad. And I was like, man, like we are a very weird society. Like that was one of the strangest things I've come across in my short amount of travels. Anyway, though, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to say. So the gist of this, because here I am talking about your life purpose. How do you find your life purpose? Let's circle back around to that. Well, you look at your health, you look at your connection through your brain to your gut, figure out your gut, because I would say that probably, this is obviously my own uneducated like guess on statistics or whatever, but I would say the majority of people have gut issues in this world. That's probably the core of all illnesses and diseases. Just saying that, in my own opinion. And so if you want to find your path, look at your health, look at your food, and look at cleansing the body, because it does some pretty freaking amazing things. And I really do think that it would solve, if people had this kind of information, like people in poverty, if they just had the knowledge, maybe they'd start applying it, and then we would start actually fixing the societal issues that we have, homelessness and illnesses and diseases and all this stuff, just by looking at that one thing. So anyway, God, thank you guys again so much for just listening to me ramble, because I've been wanting to say this all for a very long time, but I'm like, how do I even communicate this in my tarot readings? So that's pretty much why I've been jumping on here live lately. But one thing I was gonna say too, jump over to my foundation list of videos if you guys want more information. There's tons of really good videos there of me just rambling on and on. So thank you guys for tuning in. I love you all so much. And I'll probably jump on again soon, because this is just apparently what I'm doing lately. So be prepared. Love you guys. Have a good day.